How can we learn more music this year? And more importantly, how can we make sure that we remember everything that we've learned so that all of our effort isn't wasted? Those are the key questions for today's video. Happy New Year, by the way. I'm Dominic and welcome to the channel if you're new here, and if not, then welcome back. Today we're going to jump into the step-by-step process for how to learn a new piece from scratch, and then more importantly, how we can speed up that process so that we can learn more and faster, and then finally, a strategy for remembering everything that we've learned. Some of today's points might already be familiar to you. When I was writing the notes for this topic, I realized some of the things that I've fallen out of the habit of doing, and then some of them might be new ideas, especially related to speed of learning and memory. So we begin our 5-step process for learning a new piece, first not with playing, but actually with listening. So I find that learning a piece that I'm already familiar with, a famous piece for instance, takes much less time than one that is brand new to me. We've already internalized its melody and its structure, so when it comes time to actually learning it and playing it, we're just fitting the pieces of the puzzle or picture together. Whereas when we're learning something that's completely unfamiliar, we're not only learning how it feels and the notes of the piece, but we're also trying to fit together and trying to memorize the sound of it as well. Our second step is to get to know the score. There's a couple of different ways that we can listen to it. We can passively listen, so this is where we're just listening as we go about our day, or we can actively listen to the score when we're following along with the score, trying to get to know its character and structure. This is also the best time to get to know any terms or any signs that you're unfamiliar with on the music. One note on listening is that I would recommend against just listening to the same recording every time, even if it's your favorite performer. And that's because you don't want to internalize that one person's interpretation of the music, and instead you want to put your own mark on the music. The next step is a little bit more controversial, and I could actually give you some reasons why you shouldn't do this, but I think on balance it helps more than it hinders. It's to, on first glance of the music at the piano, have a sight read through of it. This will give you a sense of where the difficult parts are and the bits that you can already play. If it is a particularly difficult piece, you'll want to start those difficult parts in your practice first. I wouldn't do this more than once though, so that you don't ingrain any bad habits before you've written in any markings or fingerings, which we're going to do in the next step. So these next two steps are where the piece either does or doesn't get finished. And the first one is just to go through the piece and learn it hand separately to begin with. If it's a long piece, we can break it into sections, but this is where we're writing our finger markings so that we're staying consistent every time we play it, and any other markings that we're going to need. Not using the same fingerings every time is a bit like not having the same phone number every day. It would just become confusing, it's much harder to remember, and you're much likely to make more mistakes. So take your time and learn it really well, hand separately first. Now you're ready to put it hands together. We're going to be dealing with twice the amount of information. We're reading both in the bass clef and the treble clef. So the main thing that we're trying to do here is first of all to get the order of the notes right. To do this, we want to go slowly and really aim for accuracy. This is the point at which the piece either does or doesn't get finished, and I'd avoid against learning just one section, say the first section really well, and instead prioritize getting through the whole piece to begin with. This simple 5-step process is great, but the trick is to not let it take you too long. And one of the best ways to do this is to give yourself goals as you go along. The first goal is to get the piece learned to the point where you can play the whole thing through at a consistent speed, but very slowly. And to do this, your goal is to be able to do this along with a metronome. Once we've done this, I almost consider the piece learned in terms of the note learning at least, because if we can play it through at a slow, consistent speed, hands together, all the way through, then all we need to do now is increase the metronome speed by 5 or 10 BPM up to whatever our target speed is. The reason I like this method is that it's so easy to follow, it takes the guesswork out, and you know exactly what you're aiming for. If you want to learn faster, you always need to remember what you play and what you learn. What's surprising is that when we're reading music, we often don't remember what we're playing, and it can take a very long time to remember it. I like to think of this a little bit like a poem. If we were reading a poem, we could read it again and again and again, but it would take a very long time just to memorize it while reading it. However, if we were to read it, look away, and then say it, we will memorize it much more quickly, and we can apply that to music as well. If you're reading as you go, you're relying a lot more on your reading ability and not so much on your memory. And it took me far too long to realize this, but it's really powerful because you can do this straight away from when you start playing hands separately. And especially as soon as you've got it hands together at a consistent speed, then you really want to be actively trying to memorize it from that point. Just relying on it, going in over time just from repeating it as you're reading it is going to take a lot longer. So now that we've spent all of the time learning the piece, learning the notes, and doing it from memory, how can we make sure that we don't forget the music that we play? Like any language or skill, if we don't use it, we're going to lose it. So this is a really simple strategy, but all you need to do is make a list of the repertoire, of the pieces that you want to be able to remember, and then you just need to recap those every few weeks. This is something that I haven't done in the past, and I've regretted it because it's easy to forget the pieces that you've learned in the past. It's surprising how much time we would put into something then just to forget it, especially when the solution is so simple. This approach means that you're always going to have a core list of pieces that you'll be able to play anytime and anywhere. Start with just a few, and then you can build it up over time. We've touched on memory a couple of times today, but what we haven't yet done is go through a practical exercise for how to memorize. And in the next video, we go through exactly how to memorize music before you've even sat down at the piano. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one.